Do you ever tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow? If that sounds familiar, this story is for you. Liam used to say it so often it became part of who he was. Tomorrow he'd wake up early, tomorrow he'd study, tomorrow he'd work out. But when tomorrow finally arrived, the pattern was always the same. Scroll through his phone, delay the important stuff, and end the day with a wave of guilt. For years, Liam was stuck in a loop of good intentions and zero follow-through. Every Sunday night, he would meticulously plan a perfect week. Wake up at 5 a.m., read for an hour, go to the gym. Then 4 hours of deep, focused work with absolutely no social media. But by Wednesday, that perfect plan was always dead. He'd oversleep, skip the workout, and take a short break that turned into hours of mindless scrolling online. And then the self-hatred would kick in. Why am I so lazy? Why can't I just do what I say I'm going to do? He believed that discipline meant waking up one day as a completely different person, a person who took cold showers, ran at 5 a.m., and followed a flawless routine without effort. But because he couldn't sustain that extreme version of himself, he decided discipline just wasn't him. That label, I'm not a disciplined person, became a cage. A typical morning for Liam went something like this. His alarm would ring, and he'd hit the snooze button 3 times before finally rushing out of bed late. He'd grab his phone just to check it for a second, and suddenly 30 minutes would vanish. His to-do list for the day felt like an impossibly high wall, so instead of starting, he avoided it. He'd make coffee. He'd randomly tidy things up. He'd watch one video, which would lead to another and another. By noon, his mind felt like a web browser with 87 tabs open, none of them fully loaded. And at night, lying in bed, he would promise himself that tomorrow would be different. It almost never was. The breaking point finally came on a day that actually mattered. He had a major deadline for a project that could truly move his life forward, something he wanted to finish for months. But instead of working on it steadily, he kept pushing it off, telling himself he had time. The night before it was due, he sat at his desk, his heart racing, trying to cram weeks of work into just a few frantic hours. The result was rushed, sloppy, it was nowhere near his best work. He submitted it anyway, then lay in bed feeling sick. It wasn't because the world had ended, but because he knew this wasn't just one bad day. This was his pattern. This was his life. Later that night, scrolling again out of habit, a sentence on his screen stopped him cold. Discipline is built in small moments, not big decisions. You don't wake up disciplined, you train it. Another line followed right after. Shrink the task. Start small, momentum will do the rest. That's when it hit him. He wasn't lazy. He was just trying to change in ways his brain couldn't handle. He was setting himself up for failure with these all-or-nothing plans and massive, overwhelming routines. No wonder he kept quitting, so he decided to run an experiment. Instead of chasing a perfect, life-altering routine, he chose one tiny habit, 5 minutes of focused work right after his morning coffee. Not an hour, not a whole project, just 5 minutes. He'd put his phone in another room and focus on one important task. The rule was simple, just show up for 5 minutes every single day. That was it. It sounded almost too easy to matter, which was exactly the point. The first week felt uncomfortable. His brain kept screaming for distractions. But he set a timer and reminded himself, it's only 5 minutes. Sometimes he stopped the moment the timer went off. But other times, something amazing happened. Momentum kicked in and he just kept going. That was the secret he had been missing. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. On days he felt lazy, those 5 minutes still counted as a win. And every small win made the next step easier. Encouraged, he added another small habit, a nightly 3-minute win check. Every evening, he would write down 3 things, what he accomplished that day, what he avoided, and what he'd work on for just 5 minutes tomorrow. This simple habit changed everything. Suddenly, discipline stopped being this vague, scary concept and became something visible, something tangible. When he noticed he had avoided the same task 3 days in a row, he didn't insult himself. Instead, he just broke the task down into even smaller pieces. And when he showed up consistently, he allowed himself to feel proud instead of immediately looking for the next flaw to fix. He also simplified his environment. He had read that the fewer choices you make, the more energy you save for what truly matters. So he stopped reinventing his day. He set the same wake-up time. He ate the same simple breakfast. He worked in the same clean space. He started leaving his notebook open on his desk at night, ready for the next day, so his mornings had zero friction. Gradually, his identity began to shift. At first, he still thought of himself as a lazy person who was just running some small experiments. But as page after page of his journal filled up with proof 5 minutes of work here, 10 minutes there, something clicked inside him. He started to think, maybe I'm not lazy. Maybe I just needed smaller steps. Then he added movement. Not full-blown workouts, just 10 minutes a day, a few push-ups, a short walk, some stretching. Building his body seemed to strengthen his mind. His confidence grew. He found that the discipline he was building in one area of his life started to spill over into others. Of course, there were still bad days he overslept, days he scrolled too much, days he missed a session. The old Liam would have quit right there. He would have said, I failed. I'll just restart next week. But the new Liam followed one simple rule: never miss twice. One miss was just feedback. It wasn't failure. The very next day, he always came back, even if it was just for those 5 minutes. Months later, his life looked completely different. His phone no longer controlled him. Lazy moments didn't turn into lost weeks. Projects moved forward steadily instead of being fueled by last-minute panic. People started to trust him more, but more importantly, he finally trusted himself. He respected his own word because he practiced keeping it every single day in small, manageable ways. If you see yourself in Liam's story, if you're always starting next week, always breaking promises to yourself, remember this. Discipline isn't something you're born with. It's a skill. It's a muscle you build through tiny, boring, consistent actions. You don't need a perfect morning routine. You don't need to wake up at 5 a.m. You just need 5 protected minutes. Shrink the task, start small, track your wins, and never miss twice. Let the results of your actions quietly rewrite the story you tell yourself about who you are. This story comes from Willpower Stories for people who are tired of living in I'll start tomorrow and are ready to build quiet, consistent discipline. If you're done with the hype and ready for real change, subscribe and let every new story become your next small win. Thanks for watching.